Hi, it's Millie here. Welcome to What Google Sheets Can Do series, where I will show how advanced data tasks can be achieved easily in Google Sheets. In this video, I'll demo how you can do sentiment analysis, which is useful when you need to analyze a block of free text, like tweets, user review, or online feedback form shown on the left-hand side here, and convert that into a numerical score. For example, the Net Promoter Score, NPS, which is what business leaders and marketing teams are more familiar with. NPS is usually obtained from a 0 to 10 scale of how willing users will recommend the product or brand, with 0 to 6 being detractors, 7 to 8 being passives, and 9 to 10 being promoters. You calculate NPS by taking away the percentage of detractors from the percentage of promoters to get a single score that ranges from -100 to 100. I've actually done a fast-paced demo with Juliana in the past, and I've received a number of requests and questions over time. So I thought I'll do a more detailed demo to help answer the common questions. Google Sheets power users, please feel free to check that fast-paced video out. I'll add a link to it in the description. I'll also add links to the Google Sheets example and Google's official tutorial in the description. Now, to get started, we need access to Google Sheets, a Google Cloud account with a Billing Enable project, and network access, of course. What Billing Enable project means is you need to have a project in GCP, which is Google Cloud Platform, which has a way of charging you for usage. For example, by providing Google with your credit card information. But be rest assured, Google provides some free tier services, so small-scale experiments like this usually won't trigger any charge. Also, if you are a new GCP user, you get $300 worth of credit to use on GCP services in the first year. So you can go wild and try all the GCP services out. Okay, these are the steps. And let's start by going to the sample Google Sheets file I've created and shared in the description. To avoid accidental modification, I will not grant anyone edit access. So the best way is to make a copy of this and work on your own copy. You can see this is our own copy of the same file. Everything has been copied over, including the app script. So this is the one you can have full access because it's your own personal copy in your own drive. Now I'll show you how easy it is to start seeing results. We first prepare the text that we want to analyze, one entry per row. You can see this has been filled with movie reviews. We can easily change this to something else. Okay, so I have inserted our own text samples, one entry per row. We then go to our own GCP account. To enable Cloud Natural Language API, we can search here. This is the one. And click on Enable. Now this has been enabled. We can go and create the API key by going to Credentials. We click on Create Credentials at the top here and select API key, which is what we need. Okay, we can very easily copy this API key to clipboard and close it, and add that to the app script in our own copy of spreadsheet. To open app script, we go to extensions and app script. The app script in the spreadsheet is basically taken from Google's official tutorial with minor modifications. And you'll see line 21 has a placeholder for you to add your own API key. So we paste our API key here. You should obtain your API key from your own account. If you use this specific API key that I have used in this demo, it will not work. Once we're done, we can run. If you're doing this for the first time, you'll see this authorization request. And this is because the spreadsheet contains app script not written by you and can potentially access a lot of information. That's why you need to go to advanced and approve it when you know you can trust the content and allow this. Okay, so this app script has been run. Now, all we need to do is go back to our spreadsheet. You'll see a sentiment tools menu item at the top. You can click on that, select mark, entities, and sentiment. It's as simple as that. And the color coding is because I have applied conditional formatting in this column. And from that, we can do analysis like fitting this into the NPS scale and get minimum, maximum, and average sentiment, which is just the standard statistical analysis that you can perform. If all you want to do is being able to do sentiment analysis in Google Sheets, and you have no interest in knowing how things work under the hood, then you are done. But if you want to find out the secret behind the magic, please watch on. All right. There are two powerful components in the whole process. The first is the Cloud Natural Language API. The Cloud Natural Language API allows us to stand on the shoulder of a giant and use Google's natural language processing model, which is trained on a large labeled dataset, so that you don't have to train it yourself. In theory, we could try and train our own NLP model, but it will either be very expensive or not very accurate, because you need sufficiently large and correctly proportioned number of samples with both positive and negative labels to cover as many examples that indicate various sentiment strength and direction as possible. Otherwise, your model will not produce an accurate sentiment score. For example, if we go back to what we have here, the tool is terrible and I would not use again is definitely much stronger than this is not that good. And they both should be negative in sentiment. The negative and positive score indicates the direction. And as you can see, the sentiment score shown here does not appear very accurate. And that's because the comments have limited words, resulting in very little signal to help the NLP model determine sentiment. If you compare this to the original comments, where there is a lot more text, the sentiment score is a much more accurate reflection of the sentiment of the comments. And so if the training data used for the model does not cover the exact keywords like nothing special and so on, then the model will not be able to produce accurate results. Even though Google's NLP model is already one of the best in the industry. And in order to perform sentiment analysis, you actually also need processing power that can match the size of your sample in order to do text pre-processing tasks like stemming, lemmatization, and tokenization, as well as perform other NLP functions like named entity recognition, NER. The second powerful component is AppScript, which is here. AppScript in Google Sheets can be very powerful. In the sample Google Sheets file used in this demo, we can see that the AppScript is being used to generate a shortcut button in the menu bar here. the exact code is here. It's triggered on open. And that's because we don't want to be calling the API every time the file opens or refreshes. We actually only want the button to be here, which will minimize the number of network connections and hits to the API server. So in this onOpen function, what we do is we create a top menu item called Sentiment Tools. As you can see here, Sentiment Tools. And then we create an item under that menu called Mark Entities and Sentiment. And once you click in, this will be visible, which you can click to trigger the function called Mark Entity Sentiment, which is this function. And in this function, what we do is we look at the sheet named Review Data, which is this sheet, Review Data. And we get all the data there, indicating that the topmost row is the header. This segment of code is for entity detection, so we can safely ignore that for now. And this is just some error checking for entity detection. Then after all the input data has been collected, we loop through each row and we call another function called Retrieve Entity Sentiment, which is here, to connect to the GCP project specified by the API key that we have provided at the top into the API endpoint, which then calls the Cloud Natural Language API with the input data that we have collected and packaged into the expected data format for the API call, which in this case is in JSON format. And this loop is actually for the entity detection section, which is in this sheet. So for sentiment analysis, we don't really need to pay too much attention to it. It just detects the entities mentioned in the text and give it information such as the salience, sentiment score, sentiment magnitude, and number of mentions in your text. So you can see because we changed the text that we have entered in review data, there really is only one entity here, and that is tool, which was correctly detected. So this is seen as a summary. For example, let's say you have a lot of restaurant reviews. Some feedback could be about the service, some could be about the food, some could be about the ambience. You can then use the entity detection and the corresponding salience, sentiment score, and number of mentions to give you more informed information about various aspects of your business. So as you can see, AppScript can be really powerful. In fact, this is not just limited to sentiment analysis. If you're familiar with AppScript, which is basically JavaScript, you can extend this AppScript to access any API. That's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment with feedback or question. Thank you.